Welcome to our show. We don't have a name for it yet. That's the fun part. We kind of figured, hey, when you go and you tell your friends about what you're watching or especially locally, you're not going to go say, hey, go watch OTR Cast. You're going to say, hey, Caleb or Gino or whoever put out a new show, go watch it. So for now, we're running nameless, but it is episode 1 of whatever we're going to call it. Yeah, the return. It's still going to be, I'm backwards. It's still going to be OTR Cast in some sense, but it's definitely matured. We got a few years older. We're not as single as we used to be. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic. But from episode 4 of the original OTR Cast, we have back with us Mark Cocca with Cocca's Auto Detailing with Leonard and Newland, presumably real estate. And what else are you doing?
Doing real estate, still doing cryptocurrency.
Well, yeah, that's a given.
More so, a lot more detailing now. I've got lots of big things coming. I'm really excited.
Good. And
How are you?
Good. I'm here. We're ready. I think I'm finally at a point where I want to start. This show in its entirety is kind of my end, I guess, of an era. Which, so sad. Cry me a river. Fuck. But but no, yeah, it's the same OTR Cast, guys. It's a joke. We're just kidding. But no. So I wanted to at least get people in the area, especially business owners, politicians, city officials, whoever it wants to come on and talk about, what they do, what we can do as a county to better ourselves, what we do well. I don't want it to just be a negative Nancy podcast, right? But we need to have those discussions. I think too many people get the words critical and negative confused, right? Sure. So they're not synonymous. You can be critical without being negative. You can be empathetic without being negative. Instead of asking, what's wrong with you, you can say, why does that feel bad, right? Some guy, Simon Sinek, I looked some guy up and he had a really good quote about it. I just butchered it. I can tell you that. But long story short, I know we're getting started here, but I know you had some stuff you wanted to plug before we got going.
Absolutely. There is a little girl, I shouldn't say little, she's at Shenandoah High School, Parker Miley. There is a benefit for her. She is fighting leukemia right now. That benefit's going to be at Shenandoah High School, April 13th, 2024. We put in a gift certificate for that, so you can definitely go win a Cocca's Auto Detailing gift certificate. And then we also have the adult egg hunt for the Children's Advocacy Center. That's going to be at Pritchard on April 13th as well, but that one's going to be from 6 to 10 at night. That one we also put in a gift certificate for. So if you are an adult and have a car, and I'm sure there's a few of those out there.
And you like eggs.
And you like hunting for them, there is an adult egg hunt for you. And there is a detail certificate in there as well. So
how does
6-month wax one? So.
How does that egg hunt work? Do they put the certificates in the eggs?
I don't know. I just know that they have a good cause, and I was reached out to by Cassie Springer, the wonderful lady that she is.
Guernsey County Spotlight herself.
Yes. And the fact that she runs that.
Cassie, get on here.
We're all thankful for it. But she contacted me, and we got into talking about detailing, and then I had mentioned that she had that going on, and we put together a gift certificate for it. So. Yeah.
Well, what we're going to get into today, I know you have a little list of stuff there too, but we're going to break down the podcast for you. We're going to get into some of the stuff about what it means to be a downtown. Is that idea still relevant today? And again, this is going to be positives and negatives. We're not just going to sit here and be like, this sucks, this is horrible. We're going to at least provide solutions to those problems or talk about the idea of a solution to that problem. We're not just going to talk about the problem and not have anything to back it up, right? My phone went off in the 5 seconds it took me to say that. But we're also going to be talking about the idea of local being local. What does that mean, right?
Sure.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, I am leaving this area in the summer of this year. This podcast might not even be we're in outer space right now. Like we're not in Cambridge, it doesn't matter where you film it from. If the content's local, doesn't matter. That's, the idea. And it's not just podcasts, it's in general.
Are you going to have me out in Tennessee?
Yeah. You can come bunk up.
Bunk up.
We're also going to talk. This is a good one. I think you'll have some insight on this too. The amount of red tape it takes to start something in this town, for anybody really, but
It's
when
tough.
you're young and getting going,
Yeah.
there's a lot in the way, and then people wonder why there's nothing here, right? And there is stuff here. That's the another annoying part. There's a lot of stuff here, and people act like there's nothing to do. How many, that doesn't matter. What a modern business is and how to identify it, versus all the new grifty stuff there is out there, right? All the scams, people claim they got businesses. How do you identify that stuff? Sure. Especially from people that have started, I like to call them not physical because I'm more video, but like physical businesses in the sense that it's not all online,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So we have some insight into that. We need to think future first. I think that's kind of an idea that I want to bring up as far as like where we're headed as a county as a whole, as a Cambridge, as a whatever, as a district. We need to start thinking future first. We've got a lot we got to preserve history. I get it, but you don't want to become the history. Like you want your name in the books. Don't get me wrong, but you don't want to you want to have a history to give, and how do you continue to be future first in that endeavor?
Leave something good behind.
Yes. Yeah.
Leave
but
something good behind
be
that
able to
makes a
leave
difference.
something behind,
Sure.
you want to, a good quote on this is, you want to plant trees whose shade you won't enjoy. Right. So how are we as a county doing things that are not going to only not affect us, but affect that generation that we're not even going to see?
Sure.
Culture's big. Gino is a really good example of this. He came in, he started a podcast, he started a studio, he's now at ABC. He's changing that culture, right? And we don't have enough of those people. We have them, but we need you to step up. All right. So if if you're sitting there like, that's me, step up. It's time. It's time to influence culture, guys. I'm going to talk at the end a little bit about where I'm headed, why I'm headed, and when, and what I'll still be doing here. I think, anymore, it really doesn't matter where you're based out of. It's more about how do you want to influence where you want to influence. Because you could be in Florida, and I could have a podcast about Guernsey County, and it could still affect change here, right? So it
could.
It could. Now, granted, I couldn't have guests on all the time. I could Zoom them. I could Skype them, but it's not as fun. It's better to have that in-person conversation.
Physicality is a great thing nowadays, and I think it's a venture that not a lot of people take anymore, to actually be in person and talk.
And that is the other concept of what I want to do here is not only a one-on-one with my guest or whoever comes on, but we want to have debates. I use that term loosely. We want to get people in the rooms together that don't agree, right? That's why if you hate me, get on here. I want you on here. And we're going to be nice. Like, I'm not going to be like I'm not going to be a butthole to you, I was going to say the A word, but, it's a family-friendly show.
Insane.
But no, we want to talk. Like, people need to be in rooms together. Like, that's something since COVID, everything's been online. It's all digital. Everybody hates everybody. Like, it's like it's really hard to be mean in person. People can do it, but it's a lot harder to do. So if you can actually sit down and understand and talk to people, that's kind of the key, I think, to solving some of the county and city and countrywide issues that we have.
There'll be some things that I disagree with you on, I'm sure, but at the end, we'll probably still walk out of here as friends.
Well, that's what I tell. I'm like, again, I'm never gonna leave a room mad at somebody, like, especially not my wife. I don't have a wife, but anyway. But that's the point. Is people used to just be friends with people, right? Sure. And anymore, we're all so divided by what politics are you interested in?
Yeah,
are you a chocolate ice cream or a vanilla ice cream? And if you're vanilla, then I can't hang out with you because I'm chocolate. Like, it's all stupid. And I'm like, that never used to be like this. But that also brings up the whole, this is like the intro. Think about that. This is the intro. The whole thing this loops back around is something I don't think our politicians, or at least our city, our people not politicians, because politicians obviously have their political leanings, and you get to see those as you're voting on them.
Sure.
But people in positions in the county, I understand you have to be neutral, right? They have to remain neutral. But I feel like that also leads them to not want to enact change, in a sense. Not everybody, I'm not saying it, but I've had people call me just recently, and they can't take chances. They can't make stands on things, and that's fair. You don't want, I guess, not your elected, but your appointed officials. Do they have a say in, should they be talking about their open politics? That's a good discussion to have with somebody. But I just feel like once you get in here in Cambridge, I feel like you get locked in, and then you can't really affect change as much as you want to, because then you have to focus on keeping the people happy that are paying your bills or voting you into, you know what I'm saying? Like,
when you say you can't enact change, what do you mean by that? Like, for instance, my shop, how do I want to put this?
Yeah, it's a weird way it's so hard to like.
I wanted to bring a different style of not cleaning to the area, because cleaning is cleaning, but car detailing is different than a car wash. It's more of the nitty gritty, minor detail,
all the dog
very
hair.
minute things.
Yeah,
all the dog hair, not just a little bit, all of it. That sort of change is not necessarily frowned upon, but can be slashed in a way that is bad, because it is not necessarily the normal. With detailing does come a little bit more of a price, a timeline. It's not as quick as a car wash. It's not as cheap as a car wash. But at the end of the day, you get a better job, and you also get, a cleaner job, disinfected and things like that. So to enact change in a way of, like you said, you can't necessarily bring in change when you're locked in. I think if you do get locked into a certain profession or road that you or a path that you're on, I think if you do get locked in and you lock in sort of, well in what you do and the trade that you do, you can really show people in the area that didn't know what detailing was, because I have people still to this day call me and they have no idea what detailing is. And I'll go over it with you word for word. But I think you can enact a little bit of change and change people's minds for the better if you show them what that better could be and can be physically wise.
Yes.
Not through a screen, not on a picture, not with clear resolution or text. I have people still stop by to this day for quotes on cars, for whatever it might be, for scratches, for cleanings, for shampooings, whatever it might be, for stain removal. I still have people stop by physically and I will still go physically to people's houses and quote cars, so that I can see what I'm doing and that I can give you an honest answer in person and make that change for you that maybe another detailer or another shop, whatever it might be, didn't do for you in the first time. Or if you haven't ever had a detail, have it done the first time, or have it done correctly the first time, the right time the first time.
Yes.
Or that type of change. So, back to your locked in comment. When you get locked in, I think it can be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing if you take it down the wrong path.
Yeah. So I think from the business side of this, yes, as far as on my end of stuff, right? Photos, I don't see all my customers, right? I see either their kids or at picture day or whatever it is. I'll take their photo and then they'll get something from me, but I never actually interact with that customer in person. Now that's still affecting this area. You're still preserving memories for these people. They're going to have pictures of their kids. One day that's going to be a grandma. It's a daughter right now, but that's going to be a grandma one day. And her granddaughter is going to want to see her picture, right? Oh, wow, that's what she looked like when she ran track. What's that thing on her wrist? That's an Apple Watch. Those were big back in our day. I hate when people wear Apple Watches in their pictures, 'cause that's like holding a flip phone. in your picture. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like right now it's like trendy, right? It's cool. But in your pictures, like especially like your official sport or whatever, I'm like, in 30 years, you're gonna be like, oh gosh, like I wore that in my picture day picture. But that's a tangent on its own. But
that's like the pictures where you used to have the corded headphones down to your iPod shuffle.
Yeah. They're like, why you have a cord coming out of your headphones? Well, they didn't have Bluetooth back in my day. But I was thinking more along the lines of your appointed officials. So not, in the world of business, and I encourage anybody who has ideas. I made a post about this 2 days. I'm on one because I'm not working much right now. So all I do is talk on Facebook. And so, I made a post. I was like, I'm like, anybody could start. If I thought truly in my heart that I could start a pineapple business in Cambridge, Ohio, if that's what I really believed, it sounds stupid, but if I had enough passion to do it, I think somebody could do it. You see what I'm saying with that? I think if you believe in something enough, you can do it. And, I saw somebody, and I love them to death. I promote them. And like, if I have somebody that wants, it's actually Paige Huff. Do you know Paige Huff? Mm-hmm. She does websites, social media. So if you need that, go to her. I don't do that anymore. So I send people her way all the time. But she made a point of, she said, yes, if you have a good plan and if you're, if it's something the area needs, I wouldn't even go that far. And I would like to hear your perspective on this. I think if you're crazy enough to believe in what you want to do truly, now I'm not talking about like, going and saying, yeah, I want to sell pineapples. And then you go home, you're like, this sucks. I hate pineapples. But like, if you're really like all about it, and you truly believe it can work,
you're truly into a pineapple business. I
think your passion will like, as long as you don't give up on it, you can find success in that. Like in any business, I think that's possible to do. But anyway, the roundabout of where I was even going with that was, if you're somebody listening and you're like, well, I've always wanted to try this, or I really want to start a music career, but my dad tells me I suck, or whatever it is, do it. Like if you believe in it, go fucking do it. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just do it if you believe in it. And that's how you make change in an area. That's the big loop that I'm trying to make here, is if you commit some, you can change a lot. Like for your detailing, right? People, you're affecting one customer at a time. With my pictures, I'm affecting one customer at a time.
Sure.
And it doesn't feel like a lot, right? You're just like, oh, okay, I did a car. Oh, I did 10 pictures, whatever. But over a long period of time, you're affecting a lot of people, and you're making, in your essence, quality of life better. You're making a car better for somebody to be in or sell or whatever they want to do with it.
That's a fair statement, because I have had a lot of clients that have said, the car is totally different, or it's better from when they first bought it. And yes, of course that feels good, and of course you want that to happen, and that's one of the best compliments you can give a detailer, is that the car feels and looks better than when you bought it. But your roundabout way of thinking, I think if you believe in a business and you really put your passion into it, yes, you can be successful. But it's how you execute your plan of how you want to be successful. You can be passionate as heck and be a real jerk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it won't work because you've got the passion of, 1,000 people, but if you're a jerk and you don't make the actual connections. And yes, there are some people that just do the phone connections and just go through the FaceTime and the phone calls, and that's fine. But if I ever get that busy, I don't want to do it, because I like the physicality of my job. I like seeing people and having them physically see their cars after it's done to make sure it's what they want. And if it's not what they want, let's talk about it. What else do you want? Is there something we can take further? That's kind of my passion, is making sure, you get what you want, it's how you want it, and it's better than when you brought it. And it's cleaner than when you brought it too, because, if your car is cleaner, you're breathing in better air and all that good stuff too. If I can kill off germs and bacteria for you, why wouldn't that be all the better? Why wouldn't that make, someone feel good and all that stuff? But again, going back to your passion thing, if you have a lot of passion, you can have the passion of 1,000 people. But if you are a true mean person and you're not genuine in your way of thinking and your way of talking and doing, I don't think it would work for you. And I'll give you an example. When I first started, I was very passionate, and I'm still passionate to this day, of course. But I feel like I had a lot more passion when I first started than where I'm at now. And for me, that really sucks, because when I first started, I was so happy and so giddy just to get out there. And then there's some days it's like, oh, man, it's cold today. I don't want to go to work. But I remember from 7 years ago, man, I really wanted to go to work. I really wanted to go make a difference. And I really wanted to go help this person out. And there's days where I still feel like that. But that passion doesn't stay 100% of the time. And so again, where I think a lot of people fall and a lot of people rise is where you're honest and is where you're genuine. And again, your way of thinking, your way of talking, your way of doing, how you carry yourself in public, if you go out at a restaurant, you know, are you blazing drunk, or are you having a nice meal with your significant other? To me, if I saw another business owner, and it's not to say that you can't have hiccups or anything like that, but if I saw another business owner out and about and they were, you know, not acting in a decent manner, I'm not going to necessarily think about your business in the same light as it was. And that's the same thing with me. My logo runs on my back and on the front of my shirt majority of where I go. Now, people can think, oh, well, you know, he's just wearing a t-shirt or something. But if people know me and they know that's my logo and they know that's my number on the back of my logo and they know they can text me, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, again, back to your passion comment. I think you can have a lot of passion, but I think it's how you carry out your business that is different. Oh, that example I wanted to give you. When I first started detailing, I had a customer come in with super stained seats. And I told him flat out, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm just starting. I was like, I'm good, I think. I was like, but I don't know if I'm that good. And this had to have been within like the first 2 years of detailing. And of course, stains didn't come out or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. He was so mad at me, just like genuinely mad. He was like, why didn't you get these out? He's like, I left the car all this time for you and all this, you know, a detail is 5-6 hours. So yeah, it's genuinely a long time. More than your local car wash. I was just like, I'm sorry. I was like, we went over this. But it's how you deal, not just with your good customers, but with your bad customers too. That could have left a super bad taste in my mouth, and I could have just been like, you know what? Everybody that comes into my detail shop is going to be like this. And if they're just going to have a bad attitude, I'm going to have a bad attitude. And that can deplete your passion within a second. But it's like, okay, where did I go wrong with this client? I don't necessarily think I went wrong with this client because he did get the detail for free. But I don't necessarily think I went wrong with this one. But it's like, how can I build on that of where I necessarily went wrong or didn't go wrong, why the customer was unhappy, what can I do to improve on either my stain fighting ability? Can I get a better machine? Well, of course I can. Well, let me save up and all that good stuff. So again, passion, great. 100%. I think you need passion. How you carry that passion. Really can make a difference.
And that's true. You know, you can be passionate in a bad way for sure. Absolutely. And that's where I think I guess passion might not be the right word. I'm thinking more the belief, you know, the belief behind it. If you believe that you can do it, you can. And that comes at a cost too. So it's not just, I think I can do it and I'm just going to not do it every day. You have to apply yourself, right? And you have to stick with it. And that's where the belief comes in. Is like when I started, I was in high school really. And I always tell kids, especially high school, college, I'm like, if you're in that stage of your life and you think you might want to start a business or something, do it, because this is the cheapest time you can do it. You don't have any bills. Like you might have, you know, some to some degree, but for the most part, you're probably not paying a mortgage. You probably don't have a car payment. You're not paying your own health insurance, whatever it is, until you get to that point, and then it becomes harder. Now you can still do it, but this is the freest time of your life to start a business.
Go out and fail.
Right.
Go fail.
Yeah.
Seriously, go try whatever it is you want to try and fail at it. Fail as miserably as you can. Fail as, you know, as willingly as you want to, I suppose. As much as you'd like to fail. obviously try to be successful, but take your failures and be like, okay, why did I fail?
Don't be afraid to fail.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I failed so many times with detailing. I have failed so many times. Now, yes, I'm getting so much better because I've been doing it for 7 years, and I have those failures under my belt where I said, okay, that's wrong. This is correct. And I'm going to make sure that I keep the correctness this time and make sure that I don't keep doing the same failures that brought me to where I'm at today. And I think you should go out and fail, because if you don't fail, you don't get those experiences. And if you don't get those experiences, you don't necessarily build the experience you should. That, when people say, I've got 35 years experience, okay, that came with a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is important too. We're sitting here and I'm starting the show to talk about the town, talk about the county, but I've got a lot of mistakes to make still. I'm still young. Granted, I've been in business 8 years. That's crazy because I'm only 26. So I've made a good amount of mistakes already, but I've got a lot of them to make still. But the long wrap around, we've been wrapping around, like this present is wrapped. I tell you that. Anyway, what all this was kind of going towards was we have, and this is not just Guernsey County, this is not just Cambridge, this is in general, and I think you can see the difference in towns between it, is your officials, right? Are they passionate about what they do? Do they believe in what they're doing? And I think most of them do, right? But I think that's a question they need to ask themselves. Yarber? But I think, if anyone's listening and they're like, I'm just kind of going through the motions of it. Like, think about it. Are you passionate for this county? Are you diehard for this county? Do you know the history of this county? These are all things I think are important if you're going to lead it. And I'm not, again, this sounds like I'm really not. I have no idea. They might know the entire history of everything. But this is not directed at anybody in general. This is just a scenario where it's like, if anyone can succeed in business through belief, I think the same can be applied to an elected official position, a appointed official position. But don't just take these positions because they're cool. I mean, I know people aren't literally doing that, but it is kind of a status symbol, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm a commissioner, I'm a council member, I'm the mayor, whatever it is. You should be taking these positions because you care about it, because you're passionate about it. And I think they do, but that is something you need to ask yourself if that's something you want to run for one day, or if that's something you want to do in your town, and look at the differences, right? So this is a good time to bring this stuff up. We have an ice rink in Denison, Ohio. Denison versus Cambridge for us. Cambridge it's more of a private company, right? So we rent an area, we bought the rink, we provide it, we sell our skates to people. That's how we make money. Denison, the town, came to us, right? Mm-hmm. So they're proactive in their approach of, oh, wow, this will bring people into our town. Mm-hmm. They buy the rink. We manage it for them. So we're actually having more interest in that now. So we have other towns, townships, municipalities talking to us about bringing ice rinks to them. Well, we've kind of pitched that idea in part to Cambridge because it's not a killer business. The business that's good for it is the rink buying part. The business that is just, it helps pay the bills is the actual sale of skate time or, whatever it is. So for us to run it in Cambridge, we're making a lot less, our overhead's a ton compared to these cities where they're providing everything.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the community's involved in it. We were out at the park this year, and we still have people in February while we're tearing it down. We have people come to us. I didn't know there's a skating rink here. What? We didn't even know it was here. I'm like, how? I don't know how, genuinely, because we post all the time. But the difference between that and Denison is Denison's chamber, the restaurants around the ice rink, Polar Express, their village council, Facebook page, whatever it is, they share everything we did up there. Mm-hmm. And it showed. And now I know I don't expect that from Cambridge because we're a private business, and then you run into, well, why didn't you share my lawn mowing post, or whatever it is. So I get it, but that shows that if the city wants to bring stuff in that's going to be more than just a basketball court that gets used sometimes, costs the same amount as an ice rink, but it makes the city $0, okay. But why are we not? This is the where we need to think of the future too. Why it doesn't have to be an ice rink. I know I'm talking about ice rinks, so that's what I know. But it could be anything. But in the instance of this ice rink, that gets kids out of the house during the winter. It gets people out into your town during the winter, and we actually partnered with like 5 or 6 restaurants up there that would host parties in their restaurant. They'd make money off food sales, and then they would come skate. So there's a really good dynamic there to be had, but we had none of that help here. None. Like, I can't say none. That's degrading to people that did help us. We did have help, but there was a lot more in the way. Dennis and, we went up there and we pitched them the idea. We said, here's what we can do for you. Great, let's do it. Buy the rink, do all this stuff. We're like, now who do we need to talk to about permits and, who's going to come assess our building code to make sure our shed is hurricane proof and all this crazy stuff. They said, what are you talking about? They said, well, we just, this is what we did in Cambridge. They want us to have a brick front on our shed. We had to have a survey done to make sure our flat pad wasn't in the road and all this stuff. And they said, no, just do it. Just get it done. We just want a rink. Oh, okay. And that's not to say that stuff is in place for a reason. Like if someone builds a new building in Cambridge, I want the code to be correct.
Sure.
But it's an ice rink that's up 3 months out of the year with a mobile shed on a flat piece of land, and right. That's it. So that's kind of where we ran into trouble with not the city. It's like it wasn't like one guy up there like, hey, make sure their life's harder. But I don't think there's anything in place to make your life easier, per se.
Sure. And that can go hand in hand with people that get elected, I suppose. But it would be more so the fact, like, okay, so you said like you can't share like lawn care business or whatever. Mm-hmm. But this would be, this is beneficial for the entire community. Mm-hmm. It's bringing in traction to the community, revenue as well as potentially some outsiders, because I don't really know of any other ice rinks besides the one kind of like south of here in West Virginia. Yeah, Caldwell or whatever. You would think that you would want that revenue. You would think that you would want that change within your town, because it is for the better. Mm-hmm. It is a good thing. You can get hurt ice skating, I suppose, and
you get hurt doing about anything. That's the sales.
I mean, that's the crazy part. But as far as you said, obstacles and things to jump through, it should be easy to bring good things to the town. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be as difficult, per se.
Yeah, and that's kind of that was kind of the point. Is what are we doing as a community? And I'm pitching these as rhetorical questions, not these are ideas. I'm not saying we don't do these things. Okay. We might do these things, we might not. But anyway, what are we doing as a community to make it easier for somebody to start a business? What are we doing as a community to inhibit people from starting a business? What are we doing as a community as a whole and at a level where you can affect what goes on? For example, a good example of this would be Colgate. Colgate's great. It brings in, it's a big factory in our town. It brings in work. We have people that have jobs now, right? It's a good thing. And this isn't a bad thing, but it's an idea, is for 30 years, they had tax-free. They were tax-free. That's how we got Colgate here, was, hey, for 30 years, you don't have to pay taxes. Okay, cool. That expires. This is going to be close to factual, but that either expired this year or next year. And they started debating about it. They said, well, how, and the town's like, sorry, we're not going to do that again. From what I've heard, Colgate was going to leave. They were going to go to Mexico or whatever, somewhere. NAFTA, that's a whole nother, don't even get me started on NAFTA, but we'll get there one day.
American Free Trade Agreement?
Yeah, that's why they would go to Mexico, because it's free trade. Now, if there were sanctions, so I'll dive into NAFTA for 1 minute. Give me a minute on the clock. So NAFTA is a free trade agreement between Canada, Mexico, and North America, America. Anyway, think about this. They threaten, I shouldn't say threat, I'm gonna get sued. Let's hypotheticalize, right?
I'm gonna pause.
No, we're good. Let's hypothetically think, hey, I'm going to take my business to Mexico because I'm not getting tax-free benefit in Cambridge, right? If we don't have a free trade agreement with Mexico and we actually tax the products that come from Mexico, because that would make sense, because we import way more than we're exporting into these areas. From what that could be a complete lie, just so you know. But they would leave because of that tax benefit, right? If it costs more to bring it in with a tariff on it, then not only would they probably stay, but they would just bite the bullet on the tax. So NAFTA is actually affecting Cambridge, Ohio. Think about that. We're losing, not that they don't bring in $4 million a year to the community. Like, don't get me wrong, that they're doing a great thing, but we're losing on tax money for the city because we're basically being held hostage by a free trade agreement. We can just go to Mexico and do it and just import it. That's actually correct. You see what I'm saying? So they ended up actually renewing that for another 30 years. So Colgate's going to be here, but the idea is, we're not getting any tax revenue from one of the biggest whatevers. I don't know. I don't want to make claims I don't know, but that's what I've heard, is there is a 30-year that was coming up, and now that's being renewed because of the idea that they could go probably somewhere else and do it cheaper. But that kind of stuff. So if we can do that for these large companies, what are we doing? I get, like, you want to attract larger businesses. That's how you grow a town, right? But what are we doing for people from the area that want to start stuff? Because they're paying taxes. They're coming in and paying the full amount. Like, they're not coming, hey, I'm going to start a photo business. Can I get 30 years tax free? Like, they're like, no, we don't even know if you're going to succeed. So I get that it's not going to be that. But what incentives do we have outside of just the social incentives, right? So social incentives, and this is a good point to kind of segue into your thing, is the idea of, well, we have the young leaders, we have the chamber, and I love the chamber, don't get me wrong. Those are all social incentives. I don't think those necessarily are direct benefits. They can be benefits, though. But like, what do we have that directly benefits a entrepreneur that wants to either learn, start, or come in from another area? For example, Nashville, one Google search, what can I do as an entrepreneur moving to Nashville to get started? Oh, well, you just need to go to the Entrepreneur Center. I'm saying I don't think we need that, but maybe a version of it. Oh, you go to the Entrepreneur Center for $300 a month. You can have a desk in that building for whatever your business is. You'll have access to an advisor 24/7 in your field. And, oh, by the way, we'll set up meetings. We have social events like the Young Leaders, all for that flat fee. And that's the top one. So there's one for $100 where you don't get a desk, but you get access to an advisor. They'll say, hey, we know a guy that films for, the Ryman Auditorium. He'll be your advisor. Oh, cool. Yeah. So there's that. Like, if I am looking for a way to get into a business or looking for people in that area, I don't think we have necessarily advisors per se. In some fields we do. I can't say that we don't. But let's say, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But
no, you're fine.
Video business. I'm 18 years old and I start a video business. How many other video companies there reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to work for us? None. Zero. Think about that. I had passion. I knew what I was doing. People knew I knew what I was doing because they were paying me to do it. And not once was I ever reached out to by anybody in the area. Outside, not by people in my field, I should say. There's definitely people out there that were like, hey, you're doing a great job. Hey, this is good. But think about that. You start something, and instead of wanting to bring you in and help you learn, or, hey, I'll bring my ideas to your table, it was, hey, let's build a wall. Make sure he doesn't get any closer. Hey, don't let him touch this. And I can't, I've heard stories. I can't say that's true, but from what I've heard, there was a lot of red tape in my way. And I'm still here. But again, we don't have that mentality, right? We have we're all competing mentality. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm not going anywhere else. Oh, this guy's trying to do what I do. I don't want to help them. I want to make sure I do it better. And I mean, you've seen it firsthand from people I've had work for me before. You start out a business with your buddies or a buddy, and next thing you know, hey, I didn't even get a hey, I'm quitting. It was, hey, your guy that did your stuff last year, he's doing our videos this year. Also, you're not doing them. Oh, okay, cool. Like, and it's a crazy, like, it's just so competitive, and it doesn't need to be. But on the idea of like the young leaders and stuff, I know you had some ideas as far as like possible, different forms of that or something.
Like there's the youth leaders group, which is great. And I think that there could also be like a youth business leaders group, business owners group, young local business owners.
I do like that.
Not that it could be absolutely anything. And
not that the young leaders doesn't accept business owners. I was around when they first started, not that I was on the board or anything, but I went to their first event. The concept was really good. It was a really good concept. And it actually did get me some business, right? I can't act like everything they did. I got business from that, and it was a good concept. There was like 90 people at the first event. It was crazy. It was cool. And then unfortunately COVID hit, and it all went virtual. And that's when I was just like,
it's tough.
You can't. I don't want to have coffee virtually with you.
Sure.
And
it's just one of those things where, again, when the physicality comes in, being in person to talk business ideas, and that's why you have business meetings and things of that nature. Because when you get business like-minded people in a room together and you do bounce ideas, you can get a lot of good feedback. Of whatever you're doing, and there's business strategies that can coincide with, a lawn care business or a detail shop. Your business strategy, when you bring it down to the nitty gritty of it, is all going to be in a basic form anyway. The detail shop's business strategy is still going to be the same as the lawn care shop's business strategy, and it's all going to be to make money. I don't necessarily know where I'm going with that, but again, when you get the business like-minded people together, and you get the good ideas and you get the good feedback instead of just all, not blank feedback, but neutral feedback. You want
to hear if something's not a good idea.
Yeah, you want to hear if that's a bad idea. You want to hear if it's a good idea. You want to hear if it's going to be really crappy. You want to hear if it's going to be really good.
Yeah. And I do like the concept of a just business owners version of that. The one through the chamber, they definitely can't just do, they can't be like, actually, no, just business owners. So it probably has to be some sort of a private built club kind of thing, of like young business owner, young, whatever you want to call it, of Guernsey County. And then we meet, every 2 weeks we meet somewhere, or whatever it is. And I do like that idea. And I know that the young leaders group as a whole they've got a lot of new board members. They've got a lot of new people getting involved with that. So if any of you are listening, come on here and talk about it, because I would like to hear more about it, and I'm sure the people listening would too. But I know that they're starting to kind of get their feet back in the water as far as like getting back and active in the community to the extent they were in 2019.
Yeah. And to bring back a lot of those old groups that had kind of not dissipated during COVID, but again, the physicality, bringing back more physicality, in-person talking, I think could be really beneficial. And especially for young-minded individuals like us who, again, are getting started, getting our feet wet, maybe have had our feet wet in some type of business industry for a little while, and can have some good examples to pass along to other kids that are not kids.
Yeah.
But to
Children.
other young
We're getting
adults,
old, man.
to get to other young adults that are coming onto the scene and make a difference for them.
Yeah. And I like to think of it too, of like the idea of, so let me wrap it around. I'm going to get there. But, so when you, like, let's say person A gets out of high school and start a business, person B does the same thing. Person A has a trust fund and $100,000 to start with. Person B has nothing, right? Mm-hmm. They can both do it. This is probably going to be a little bit of an easier path. Now, does that mean it's a better path? It's up to interpretation. But the same thing applies on the community level too. If one of the reasons I want to go to Nashville and a bigger area personally is what I do. I feel like I've done almost what I can do here as far as video, right? Like I could keep doing, I'm going to keep doing weddings up here. I'm going to keep doing weddings. We're going to keep doing OVAC stuff because that stuff's booked a year in advance, so I know when it is. But as far as like, even like think about like the county, when they do videos for, like they'll go to other businesses, promote the town, whether it's Main Street or whatever. That company isn't local. They bring a company in that is a sales as a service and then focuses on the production after the fact. So they're not bringing in even AVC to do it. They're not even bringing me in to do it. They're not saying, hey, let's bring our local video companies in and do it. They're getting outsourced from some company that pitches a better, I'm not saying that they have to use us, but I'm not actively pitching them, hey, let's do 20 businesses. But they'll go take that and you're outsourcing all of that money. And that is, that person that started with 100,000 versus that person that started with 0, don't think of it as money, think of it as like resources in the area. So we are almost like, we're not dead zero. There's so many good people in the community that are willing to help you. Mm-hmm. There's your Jeff Leonards, your people, Jeff's the dude when it comes to like, he's always supporting everything and trying to help people learn and grow and do things like that. But, you're not starting with a Nashville where, hey, yeah, come to Nashville, give us $100 a month and we'll give you advisors in your field ready to teach you everything. I know that it's not feasible here, but you shouldn't, I feel like we almost are starting at 0. Like there's not a lot of, when you get started in something, there's not a lot of people willing to come out and be like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Let me show you how to do it.
Sure.
Now they'll tell you you're doing it wrong. They'll definitely tell you, but they aren't going to say, hey, actually you should do it. The camera, you got to take the lens filter off, like whatever it is. They're not showing you those things. They're just saying, hey, that sucked. And you're like, well, okay. Okay. So I don't know. It feels like there's just a lot more resources there. And there is, I mean, you can't act like there isn't. There's a lot more resources there, but it's also completely different in the fact that you don't know anybody there. I know a lot of people here and that does help me. I can't deny that fact, but the resources compared to when if I was starting right now again, I probably wouldn't. Like I would just find a job because I'd be 26, if I was starting immediately, and I would need 3 or 4 years just to get my feet going. And you don't have that time, like not literally, like we have the time to do it, but how are you going to feed how are you going to pay for your house? How are you going to, So that's why I tell people start in college, start in high school if you really got your brain on you. Because that's the best time to fail. It's the best time to learn and get started because it's definitely possible, but it's a lot harder to just cold start a business after the fact. And even right now in the economy we're in, it's a lot harder too.
Yeah. And with the cost of everything and just the cost of living being the way that it is, starting a business right now is tough, but I would hazard to say that I would still start a business versus getting a job because I had my resume out there for years and years before I really started doing full-fledged detailing and just being a realtor. I had my resume out there for a long, long time and I couldn't justify leaving the shop with the amount that I made in being a realtor, I guess too. But I couldn't justify leaving making my own hours versus doing like a 9 to 5
Yeah.
for a certain hourly rate, because it wasn't,
Your hard caps, your caps.
it was never, not enough, but like it was like taking a pay cut. And it was like, okay, well, I'm going to work on myself.
Well, and I highly encourage anybody to start a business. Like, you make your, to some extent, you make your own hours. You work when you want to. You make as much as you want to. In that same vein,
That's not to say a day can't be from 9 to 3 or a day can't be from 9 to 9. So.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, it is a lot of. It's not like, oh, this is way easier. Like, that's not the selling point. But you are in control. You're not. As the owner, you're making the money. You're not having to cut money out. You're not just getting paid to make other people money. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. But
I think running a business, though, can teach you a lot. It teaches you payroll. It teaches you advertising. It teaches you how to market your advertising. It teaches you how to deal with employees and manage employees and inventory and product and all that stuff. So it can teach you a lot about how to manage money too, and finances, and kind of the nitty gritty of, where I'm spending business cash versus where I'm spending profit business cash, where my overhead comes in, how much overhead's coming in, and all that good stuff. So I think a business really is good to start overall, of course, but really where I think it is knowledgeable and helpful is the finance aspect, because we really don't have a lot of classes coming through like middle school or high school or anything like that has to do with a lot of financial accounting or just bookkeeping in itself, or marketing, really, for that matter. Until you get to college, there really is no marketing or finance division classes.
Yeah. And I think on that same note is I think as a business owner too, or someone that's starting a business, and you just be an entrepreneur or even a contract worker that does your own like freelance stuff, you learn a lot of what goes into it, versus there's a lot of people out there that don't know the back end and don't understand how it all works. And then they're angry at business owners, or they're angry at landlords.
Yep.
And you're like, but do you understand? Like, you've never done it. Not that you can't not do something and not understand it, but it tends to be that way where people get mad at landlords, and I'm like, I'm going to rent my house out up here and I'm going to break even. And that's not including, what if my water line breaks?
Sure.
Like, and I'm a little over even, not even $100 over. Like, and that's not good, but it's a 2-year lease. And I don't have to worry about, like, I can go to Nashville for 2 years and figure it out. And if I hate it, I can come back. So that's,
right.
That was kind of
I don't tell I could probably be a truck driver, but I don't tell the truck driver how to do his job. Or I liked this example a lot, and I heard it from, I don't know where, but you go to McDonald's and they mess up your order countless times, but you still go to McDonald's. You have a local business that messes up.
You never go back.
You never go back. Why? Why not? And that's what I tell every single one of my clients. If there is something you find wrong in your car, I want to know about it. And I want to fix it for you. I want to be your first call before you get on your Facebook and say, this is junk.
Yeah.
They didn't do me anything, or, whatever it may be, or what have you. But call me first. Let me know what's wrong. Because, of course, there's been times where I've, missed a seat, or there was a smudge in the paint or something. I don't know. But one of my best clients called me, and he was like, hey, you didn't shampoo my back seat. He's like, there's no way. And I was like, send me a picture of it. I was like, you're probably right. But sure enough, plain as day, I didn't shampoo the seat. I was like, okay, fine. I was like, I'll be at your house in 45 minutes to take care of that. Yeah. It just so happened that, yes, I could take care of it right then and there. But if it wasn't right then and there, it was going to be at least the next day. So that's another whole thing about punctuality and making sure you're on time. But
I personally am good about time, and I'm one of those people that if things are like off time, I am not having a good time. Like, I am not having fun. Like, I love when a schedule is made and it's stuck to. Like, not that I'm pretty like go out and spontaneous, but if there is a schedule, I don't want to be late.
Sure. It depends on what the schedule's for. So
I don't care what it's for.
If it's for something like really important, I don't want to be late. But if like my schedule is like getting to dinner while I'm on vacation or something like that.
Okay, that's a little different. But
cool.
but honestly, no, it's not. I say that I would still be upset. I would be like, guys, we said 6:30. Why is it we haven't left the house yet? Like I love, not that I'm OCD more than I thought I would. Like yeah, I used, like, don't get me wrong, when I was like 11 and 12, I would play Xbox and eat in my bed and like just be disgusting and like not clean my room. And I think that's what made me nuts about like things being clean. Like I need things, like if there's like dust on my floor, I'm like, I can't focus. Like I can't go to work.
Your own demise.
I can't go to work. I have to clean that dust up.
You literally made your own demise.
It's bad. Like it is bad. And I'm like, I can't do anything until my house is clean, or, oh, hey, I need, we're going to, not weddings necessarily, because for weddings, they're always pretty timely. But, oh, we're going to eat at my parents' at 7. Okay, cool. And I'm just like, anything. And even if it's like hey, I've got, we're going to go film. I don't get mad, but inside I'm like, I'm in pain. I'm just like, I love time. And if someone tells me they're going to be somewhere at a certain time, give me a good reason why you're not. Like, don't be like, oh, sorry, I sleep on my bed. Like it gets to me. It really does.
That goes with building your personal brand. Is your personal brand punctual? Is your personal brand on time? Yeah. Is your personal brand able to, talk to other clients or business owners or whatever it may be and still have, an actual conversation with them? Right. Can that brand still carry itself in a way that it needs to?
Yeah. And I used to be really bad. Like, I know there's going to be people watching that are like, he never answers my calls, or like, I used to be really bad about that stuff. Cause there was a point where I was just like, I didn't want to do what I do right now ever. Like I was like, I kind of was just hoping it would kind of die. And it was like, I don't know. It kept getting like, it's like someone kept putting the freaking shockers on my chest. They're like, no, you're going to do video. You're going to like, there was like a few years there, like during like not COVID. Cause during 2020, I was like, like we did like 2 million games and all this stuff, and it was great. And then after all that, it was like 21 to like 22. I was just like, hopefully this just goes away. Like I couldn't let it, but that's, again, does that come back to the passion belief thing? Like, did I believe in what I was doing still?
But doesn't it feel weird to come off of such a good year and then almost feel like you're not like you're falling apart, but like that you're just, that you don't have it all together like you did the year before?
Well, it was,
how did I pull off the year before and I'm pulling this year off completely wrong?
But what was weird, I guess, and it's not just unique to me, but it's pretty unique to people that had it happen, was COVID was my best year. Like for what I did, COVID enhanced my business. I went and streamed all the time. Like we went from doing 1 school to 5 or 6 or 7. So you go from, oh my goodness, like we're necessary. Like we're a necessary thing to, well, people are coming back to games now. As a kid, you're like, it's discouraging. As a kid, I was like 22 or whatever, but it's discouraging, right? You're like, oh, like they needed me and now they don't need me. And so that was the mentality. It was like, as people were, that's horrible. As the world as a whole was like getting worse, oh, there's a pandemic. I was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of business from this. Into that next year and a half where everything's opening back up. People are starting to be happier again. They can go visit their friends. I'm like, oh God, like, not that I wished we were still in a pandemic. But mentally I was, oh man, like, what do I do now?
It's like, how is the pandemic year my best year?
Yeah.
When in all of the other years, you had the freedom to go outside your house. So as simple as that.
It's a dynamic that's weird, and just mentally it was taxing. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do video anymore.
But see, I'm almost the same way, because I fell into the same boat as you, that COVID was my best year, or one of my best years, because I was labeled essential. And it wasn't necessarily that like, oh, they don't need me anymore, but it was the fact of like, if I'm labeled essential and I am needed, how am I going to still be needed necessarily after the fact, that after COVID's gone? Are people still going to want their cars detailed, or can I spin this in a different direction and say, you know, I was labeled essential, obviously for a reason, and it was to sanitize vehicles. I had a lot of nurses come in, a lot of nurses come in. And that was kind of weird for me too, because like cleaning COVID cars, it was like, you know, like, am I going to get COVID? Obviously, you know, we know more now, but it was just weird because it was just, you know, how am I going to either spin COVID into a better thing and have another better year after COVID, which I have had better years after COVID now, and building and doing different things within my business and articulating myself a different way and portraying detailing it in a different light and all that stuff. But
I think of it as like how can you capitalize off what you gained from COVID?
Yes.
And make it better. And that's, again, don't be afraid to fail. I failed at that aspect of okay, so you did 5 schools this year. How do you keep them? What can you do?
How do you capitalize off something that's never happened in history for like 120 years or something?
Right.
Never had a pandemic.
And so I just got to the point where I was like, it was discouraging because you wanted to live stream the schools in 22 and 21, but 21 we did, but in 22, and you're like, but now they're not going to pay me to come do that. Like, you have to go get sponsors, and I don't want to ask the same 5 people for $500 every, you know, it's like, cause I get it. I'm like, you want to sponsor things, but you don't want to like just be giving money to, like, you don't want people to just be giving you money, and you're like, I get it. Like, so I kind of got out of that. Now, I definitely probably, looking back, could have done a lot more to build relationships with those schools. But now that I'm older, you know, I get that. But that's something we failed at, was capitalizing off of what COVID got us. Now, we went from doing 2 weddings that year to 40 this last year. So we're in a whole different field than we were. But, you know, that's kind of where you got to be adaptable too. You got to be able to change with the times. Like, that's one thing I think we are really good at, is pivoting, like not as a whole, like we're still doing video, we're still doing photo, but we're adapting to where we're needed, not necessarily trying to push ourselves into just one type of work or whatever.
And I think a lot of businesses had to pivot after COVID simply because a lot of people had a different mindset about health and how they just went about daily lives. So if you didn't pivot after COVID, and you were one of the lucky businesses that kept going after COVID, because there was a ton of small mom and pop shops that got closed down, unfortunately. But if you were one of the lucky business owners that got to keep going, how did you pivot? What did you do after COVID, after a pandemic that, you know, we've never had? How did you pivot from that moment in time and say, okay, now we do this, or now we don't do this, or something along those lines? You know what I mean? It goes back to, how do you be better? How do you still do good for the community? How do you still pivot in the right direction without not stepping on toes, but
and sometimes you have to. Sometimes you guys, like, I know with AVC, we don't have much beef now because we really don't even do the same stuff. I do weddings, I do sports, but not the same type, all that stuff. But there's still some sort of, like, you know, there's still like this like negative connotation towards me from, not Gino. Gino's a great dude. We get along real well. And I think he's helping change that mentality up there. But, you know, during COVID, it was, hey, we filmed the graduations for the schools. Well, I got a call from them, and they said, you know, we would like to run the graduation videos on YRP or, you know, Radio Place, whatever it was. I was like, that's a good idea, because then more people are going to see it. Like, nobody had a real graduation, so this is nice. But what wasn't told to me was that they were going to sell a bunch of ads on it, and I gave them that video, you know, like, it was under the assumption that, oh, okay, we just want to get eyes on it. There was no mention of ads, and so they probably made more. I don't know, but there was a lot of money made there, and it might've been more than I made just filming it. And so that was kind of where that little rivalry feud started. And it just kind of grew into different stuff, which it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to look back on that stuff now. We're trying to do stuff like Gino. Me and Gino are trying to put something together where AVC and KGP can come in and do a debate style thing with 2 different individuals. But, you know, that's like, I feel like this comes back to that non-traditional downtown, right? Like the idea of, oh, we're going to have 10,000 people out on our main street walking around shopping. It's not the same as it was. Like that was really like in the 60s, the oil and gas boom. We have those still, but that was the big time for it. Coal industry, when railroads ran through here still, those closed in like 1971 was like the last train to go through here. When that stuff stopped, this became a lot less important. Now, it was still a lot of local stuff, the 80s, the 90s, people are still local, but anymore, especially after COVID, a lot of stuff went online. A lot of stuff. Like everything's DoorDash now. Like I DoorDash my food and I shouldn't because it's so expensive. Like it's absurdly expensive.
I've never actually DoorDashed. So
good. Don't don't do it. And even like you can go to Walmart now and they'll bring your groceries to your car. Like, and those are examples of people and big businesses that adapted to the times. Now, is that easy for a mom and pop shop to do? No, you can't build an app. Hey, I'm going to order my candles off of the Wick app, or whatever. Like it's not possible, but it is possible. I shouldn't say not possible, but the dynamic's a lot different. So those people that did adapt through these times are set for now. But I do think I think people are kind of coming back to this face-to-face stuff, like obviously not just in like the sense of, oh, I can go to a school game now, but like people need to see other people in person. Mm-hmm. Like that's something I don't know. I know you have a kid, so you have a kid around, and Cam, you've got a family and things like that. But like for me, I say that like I do. That's not where I was going with it. But my day is a lonely one. I know that sounds like really dreadful, but like when my girlfriend's out teaching, she might not be home, then she'll go to dance. And so she's doing her stuff and hobbies and going to school and teaching for 8 hours. My day is at home or here with nobody around. Like, so, it's a very like lonely lifestyle, right? Unless you're out on a job or at a wedding and interacting with people. And so it is different from that. I don't know how your day is. Is it similar? Like,
it depends on if I have employees in the shop, but most days it is just me. Yeah. So being a business owner can be a lonely venture if you want it to be. Just depends.
Well, yeah.
Just depends on what you're doing.
Right.
It depends on what you're doing, and if you can make it profitable with having employees and making sure the company stays above water, then yeah, it can be unlonesome, I suppose.
Yeah,
but there's good in the lonely, if you will. There's good in being
I didn't want it to be a
because
negative thing. I just wanted to point out is like,
right.
You're not like in the sense of, I have a bunch of coworkers. Oh, me and Brittany are going to fucking vibe tonight. Like, it's not that, you know what I'm saying? Like, people, they'll go to work and they've got their work friends. Like, they're building friendships there. Now, as business owners, you can do it with clients, you can do it with other business owners, things like that. But it's a lot more rare than, oh, I know when I go to work today, I'm going to, and it's at the same time, if you don't enjoy the work you're doing, or it is like a stressful job, that's going to socially wear you out too. Like your social battery is going to get drained. So, that is kind of a weird dynamic that I have with like my girlfriend too, is she'll come home and she's drained. Like, and I'm like,
ready to talk.
Like, there's a person here. Like I get all excited.
Ready to talk a million miles an hour.
Right. And so it is just like that's something I've had to become more aware of, is I'm like, okay, act natural. Like, cause I'll sit at home and read all these books. Like, no, I don't read a lot. I read a book. I have a single book I'm reading, but, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, this is interesting, all this stuff. And I'll have all these thoughts I've built up over like an 8-hour period. And I'm like, what about this? What are we doing? And then I'm just like, but there's times when I go to weddings and I come home, like, I don't want to hear anything. Like, right. I just work, like I talked to 20,000 people today. So there's this like weird, like,
there's high days when you have a business, and there are low days when you have a business. And the low days, whether it be low people to people interactions, or whether it be just low business volume in general, you have to balance the low and the high days. and if you don't balance the low and the high days, the low days are what will really get to you. And if you let the low days get to you, you can't enjoy the highs that come with being a business owner and that come with your own hours and all of the good that does come with it. If you harp on the bad, you can't enjoy the good.
Yep.
And it's tough.
And that's where I was doing that for a few years there. Obviously I'm leaving, so that's helpful in the sense of like the way I think mentally it's going to help me is I'm getting a fresh start on everything, right? I'm still gonna have business up here. I'm still gonna do stuff, but I'm not gonna have this necessity of like, oh, what am I forgetting? What's the 500 things I have on my to-do list and where's it at and all this. Now it's okay. Start from step one. You get to keep what you've earned so far. You get a new area to try it, and you're it's basically like, hey, start again. In a sense, you obviously got a little bit of rapport from whatever you've built, but you can go and you can say, here's everything I've learned, all the mistakes I've made, and now I can try it at a bigger level. And so that's kind of the appeal to me, I guess, is like that, and that's what I would tell people, definitely try whatever you want to try. If you don't want to start a business, don't. That's fine. It's, that's your choice. That's our choice as well to start one. But if that's something that interests you, try it. Start somewhere, try it, or get out and try it. You can do it different ways. It's not like there's one way to be successful. But yeah, I think in that sense, that's kind of the appeal for me is I want to get out, try it. And if I like it, great. If I don't, I'll be back here and then I'll run for mayor or something. I don't know. So
run for mayor. I think starting a business though should scare you in one sense though, because if it doesn't and you're really, really comfortable with it, you're not really willing to learn the challenges that come with it.
I think the risk is what makes it exciting. Like for me, the
risk of either being really, really good or really, really bad.
Well, not even that. Just I've never had a job where I knew money was. What I'm saying? I've never worked a traditional job. Yeah. Ever. Like
a 9-to-5 hourly paycheck.
Anything. Not even. Yeah. Think salary or wage or whatever it is. In the sense of if I don't perform, if I don't go make the money, I'm not going to have money. That's a risk that's hanging over your head as a business owner almost constantly. Is if I don't do, I won't make. So I kind of enjoy that risk. It's what keeps me going, right? Sure. It's the idea of if I don't do this, you're not gonna have any money.
As I was saying, if you don't keep going, there's nothing to go. There's nothing to go.
Right. And it's not to say that if I have a job, I can just not do it. If you have a 9-to-5 or whatever it is, you obviously have to perform to some level. It's not but there are if you're having a bad day, in some fields, you can take that time and just hang out. Or sometimes you can't do that, especially with weddings. If I've got the flu, I have to go film a wedding. Yeah. So it's like Michael Jordan now. Yeah. No, but it was that Kobe. I don't know who it was. Jordan's flu game, or was it Kobe's flu game? I think they both had a flu game. I don't know.
I don't play basketball.
I don't.
I really couldn't tell you.
You don't?
Maybe.
I did, but I just played JV. I don't know. But the kind of risk of you have to make it work. You just have to. And if you don't, you will fail. And if you fail, try again. But it's that idea of I think that's what helps. It's almost that comfortability too. So and this isn't true for everybody, but I feel to believe that if you are in a 9-to-5 and it's enough and you're I'm good here, you might not be then willing to go and take that risk because you know what you can have.
Yeah.
So for me, I was if I ever did get a job, I might not, which I do enjoy the idea of the freedom, but I would what if I got comfortable doing it and didn't see the risk in taking that risk? Because it's well, now I can just hang out. I can go in, clock in, do it, and that's it. And that's good. And that's enough for me. And that's a lot of people's mentality, and that's fine. But the risk is what keeps it exciting.
And I also not knowing necessarily what my day will hold or who I'm going to talk to.
You never know who's going to call you.
Exactly. I went and quoted a semi the other day. and it's a cab over flat nose semi. I've never done one before, but I am really excited. So like, it's just, I get excited because my day can be so different or just the same.
It's the highs and lows.
It goes back to the highs and lows. Exactly. It's also about balancing, balancing the highs and lows, but also balancing like other things in your life and your other commitments and things of that nature, and making sure you keep a level head when you are on a high or when you are on a low. And if you don't keep a level head, obviously it'll go south pretty quick. But, and it won't help, of course. But I think when you get into those problematic areas of not being able to keep a level head, I think
it's like the loose cannon. Like, yeah, you want to make sure, like, as a business owner, and I'm not saying every business owner does, because they definitely don't, but oftentimes anger will lead you to dumb decisions.
Yes. Versus thinking about it and then saying, okay, that's probably a better idea, versus just going about this wrong overall. Yeah. In one go at it. So, but going back to your, trying a business and failing and things like that and starting young, I think you should. But there's also a good comfort to have in your 9-to-5 and keeping balance in those commitments while building your business.
That is good income to support your business.
Yes, exactly. And obviously if it's a good job, keep the good job for a little while until you have your business fully fulfilled and things like that. But I think comfort can kill sometimes too. Because if you get comfortable where you're at and there is change coming, because of course there's going to be change sometime in your life. You'll get, hopefully, car doesn't break down or something like that, or you'll get a medical bill and you've got to pivot again. But how you pivot, where you come back out of, how you handle the business through those pivots, I think really is not just life lessons, but business lessons in themselves, and good and bad.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah. I mean, you can just look in general at the idea of comfort. It doesn't even have to be a business. Don't apply it to business. Apply it to just in general. If you're comfortable in something, you're not going, I'm not saying you should never be comfortable. I sleep on rocks. Like there's a time and a place.
I had a bowl of nails for breakfast this morning.
Yeah, right. If you don't find places to make yourself uncomfortable, you'll never grow. That's where you grow. You don't grow in comfortability. Yep. You grow in the uncomfortable and the hard and the risk. And sometimes that is, I got to call, this lady's been yelling at me for 3 days. I got to call him. Like, do you want to? No. Just get it done, because then it's off your brain. And that is probably one of the last things I'll talk about is keep an idea of this in your head while you're doing anything in life. College, school, this is a test thing as well as a life thing. Debt affects you more than sleep. And that's studied. So there are studies out there that people, like high school kids, college kids that would take ACTs, tests, things like that, if they held higher debt, they would perform worse on a test than somebody who stayed up for 2 days. So sleep deprivation was less effective than the idea of, how am I going to pay this money back? So obviously I have debt, like I have a mortgage and all this stuff, but if you find somebody in that's just like, oh man, I'm down, like think about that. 'Cause it could be like, if the less debt you can carry, the better. But that's kind of where I was going to wrap around, was like the idea of consider people's financial situations too when you're talking with them, when you're dealing with them. Like they might not be in the best spot, like, and that shouldn't mean, I don't care about them or whatever. But that mentality of like, I when I heard that, I just thought that was nuts. And it's not a big point that I'm trying to make, but it's just, think about that. Like the idea of, how am I going to pay my bills hurts your mental function, or hurts like your mood more than just staying awake and never sleeping. Like that's crazy. I think that's crazy.
In one sense, I think it's crazy because I think that amount of stress that you have is keeping you awake. And if that amount of stress is overcoming the fact that you can't even turn your brain off, that's a problem. That's
Yeah.
a real big problem. But I also get that stress too, because I've never necessarily known when my next paycheck was going to come through the door. It just depends on when I'm needed, like you, essentially. When somebody calls for photos or a video, or somebody calls for a detail, then yes, I get a paycheck. A little bit, but it's not all profit, of course. As I'm sure you know, there's things you need to buy and things you need to take care of, but that risk, like you talk about, the not knowing, but also the freedom that does come with it, I think is...
It's a balance.
It's always a balance, but it's how you balance it too that either makes it worth it for you or can make it really detrimental.
Yeah. Well, what are we at, like 5 hours? But no, I think, got any other point? Did you have any points on your sheet that you wanted to talk about?
No, we really covered like challenges. I had success stories, but
There were some in there. I mean,
I was gonna say there was a couple.
yeah,
But that's okay.
But yeah, so I think I don't know what people were expecting from this podcast. I don't know if they came in with a different perception, but I think this is going to be a pretty broad, topical podcast, as you've just watched, if you're still watching. But the good thing is we'll be able to cut this into clips, and you'll get to see everything in little pieces. But this is, I think, a good first intro. I've got a lot that I want to talk about still as far as different topics, but I do know that if I use them all in the first episode, what am I going to talk about with when the people that actually have like knowledge on the EMS situation and things like that, we'll get them on here and actually let them talk about them too. So again, do you want to highlight those two events one more time?
Yeah, the Parker Miley benefit at Shenandoah High School, April 13th. Benefiting her in the leukemia fight that she's having. And then the Children's Advocacy Center Adult Egg Hunt, April 13th, 6 to 10 at the Pritchard Laughlin Civic Center. Again, Cocca's Auto Detailing put raffles in for both of those. So obviously they're both great benefits as well. So if you can get out to those, please do.
And do you want to plug yourself?
Yeah, I absolutely will. That's a great idea. Cocca's Auto Detailing, that's me. We take care of everybody. Basic washes to ceramic coatings. So all the good stuff in between. We have anything that will really fit your needs from interior to exterior. So just give me a call.
Awesome. Well, if you are still here, I appreciate you. You're one of the few. But thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. We're gonna have another episode next week. I don't know who it's with, but somebody's going to be on here next week. The problem with that is we're trying to schedule this bigger one, and we can't get everybody to freaking schedule it. So that's neither here nor there. But someone will be on our podcast next week. Will it be Mark again? Just round two immediately. No, but again, thanks, Mark, for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
Sharing your insight. I think this is a good episode for that younger generation, those high school, college kids that are just getting started. You get to learn from us a little bit more about where we're at and how we can, we're kind of at that point in our lives where we can start to give a little bit of advice to people instead of taking it all.
Yep. If there's any like-minded individuals that I can help kind of along the way, not necessarily make the same mistakes I made, but help them make less mistakes, I'm all for that.
Yeah. And maybe we'll start that young business leaders group, and this can be a good platform for it. So we'll see you next episode. Thanks for watching, whatever this show's called.